Imagine being locked up in a maximum security dungeon for a crime you absolutely didn't commit. That's where we find Joseph. He's doing hard time, but because God is with him, he's basically running the prison floor. One day, the cell doors clank open, and in walk two guys wearing what used to be really nice designer clothes. It's Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, the guy who tastes the king's wine to make sure it's not poisoned, and the chief baker, the guy in charge of the royal carbs. We have no idea what they did to tick Pharaoh off. Maybe the wine was corked, or maybe the king found a hair in his sourdough. Whatever it was, Pharaoh was furious, and he tossed them straight into the captain of the guard's prison, right where Joseph is. Joseph gets assigned to take care of them. They settle into prison life for a while, just waiting for the king to decide their fate. Fast forward to one random morning. Joseph is doing his rounds, checks on the two VIPs, and immediately notices they look terrible. Like, just found out my car was towed. Terrible. Joseph, being the observant and caring guy he is, asks, "Hey, why the long faces today?" They sigh and say, "We both had crazy dreams last night, but there's nobody here to tell us what they mean." Back in Egypt, dreams were a huge deal, and the royal court was full of experts who decoded them. But in a dungeon, you're out of luck. This is where Joseph shines. He doesn't say, "Oh, I took a psychology class once." He points straight up. He says, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." Even in a literal pit, Joseph hasn't lost his faith. He knows God is still the one with the answers. The cupbearer goes first. He says, "Okay, so in my dream, there was this grapevine right in front of me with 3 branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, and boom, clusters of ripe grapes. I had Pharaoh's cup in my hand, so I took the grapes, squeezed the fresh juice right into the cup, and handed it to Pharaoh." Joseph smiles. "Here's the interpretation. Those 3 branches, they're 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh's going to lift up your head and give you your old job back. You're going to be handing him his cup just like you used to." Can you imagine the relief? The cupbearer is probably doing a happy dance in his cell. It's like, but then Joseph leans in. He adds a very human, very relatable side note. "Hey, when everything is going great for you, please remember me. Show me some kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this place. I was kidnapped from my homeland, and I haven't done a single thing to deserve being thrown in this hole." Now, the baker is watching this whole exchange. He sees that the cupbearer just got a 5-star fortune, so he eagerly steps up. "My turn. In my dream, I had 3 baskets of white bread stacked on my head. In the top basket, there were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but birds kept swooping down and eating them right out of the basket on my head." You can almost feel the awkward silence. Joseph probably takes a deep breath. "All right," Joseph says, "here's the meaning. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift off your head. Literally. He's going to hang you on a tree, and the birds are going to eat your flesh." Ouch. Not exactly the news you want before breakfast. There's no sugarcoating it. Joseph just had to deliver the hardest truth possible, staying faithful to what God revealed to him, even when it wasn't crowd-pleasing. 3 days later, it's Pharaoh's birthday. He throws a massive feast for all his officials. In the middle of the party, he decides to settle the accounts of his imprisoned staff. Just as Joseph predicted, Pharaoh restores the chief cupbearer to his position. The guy's back in his fancy robes, handing the cup to the king. And just as Joseph predicted, Pharaoh has the chief baker executed. God's word, spoken through Joseph, was 100% accurate. So the cupbearer is free. He's back in the palace, eating the good food, sleeping on a soft bed. You'd think the first thing he'd do is say, "Hey, Pharaoh, by the way, there's a brilliant, innocent guy down in the dungeon we need to bail out." But look at the very last verse of the chapter. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. Talk about being left on read. Joseph is sitting in that dark cell, watching the days turn into weeks and the weeks turn into months, waiting for the pardon that doesn't come. Genesis 40 is such an incredibly human chapter. It shows us the frustration of being forgotten by people, but it also quietly points to the fact that God never forgets us. Joseph was delayed, but he wasn't denied. God was just setting up the timing perfectly for the next chapter, where Joseph wouldn't just be freed, but put in charge of the entire country. Sometimes people drop the ball. but God is always holding the pen to our story.